Changing the electronics in your guitar can be a relatively inexpensive way to improve the tone of your guitar, especially on a cheaper guitar where the quality of the potentiometers and capacitors may not be that great. Now on a Strat or a Tele-style guitar like this one, getting to the electronics is pretty easy. This one you just remove two screws, this one and this one. I've already removed them so that I could pop this out and show you. All the electronics are attached right to the underside of the plate there. It's really easy. Now on a semi-hollow body style guitar, like my Epiphone Riviera P93, it's not so easy. Now I've read that on some semi-hollow guitars there's a channel routed in the center block underneath the bridge pickup that gives you access to the cavity, but certainly on my guitar the only way in or out is through the F-hole. So in this video I'll be demonstrating how to disassemble the electronics and get them out through the F-hole. And this is the first step if you're planning on fixing a scratchy pot, or changing out your jack, or adding treble bleed to your volume pots, or anything like that. You're going to need to get the electronics out first. So let's go in for a closer look and get started. So I'm going to grab a screwdriver with a fairly sharp point and remove the screws holding the pickguard in place. That's one. Leave this one alone. That's just holding the bracket. And that's two. Just comes right off. Set those aside. Next thing are the knobs. If you can just pull them off with your bare hands, that's fine. The other thing you can do is grab a cloth like this and wrap it around nice and tight and give it a pull, and that'll help get it off. Alright, next thing I'm going to do, these little baby cloths come in handy. Let's cover up the center here. We want to avoid scratching our nice finish here. So next thing is to remove the nuts holding the pots in place. For that I'll just use a adjustable wrench here, being very careful not to hit the finish on the guitar. These ones aren't too tight, so just get it started and then you can do the rest by hand. This one might be a little tight. For that, grab a pair of pliers and maybe like a cloth here to protect the knurled edge of that nut. Just give it a little turn to get it started. Once it's started, it should be easy enough to get off by hand. Alright, now I've done this several times before in my experiments preparing for this video, and the first couple times I tried to tie strings around the edges around the tops of these things, the pots, before letting them go, so that when I pushed them through the strings would go with them and then come out through the F-hole. That way I could later on tie the string back around the pot and pull it back through. What I found though is that what a mess. The strings just got all tangled up and it was really tough. Actually, the first time I was doing it I was using thread like this, and the threads was breaking. So what I realized was that it's pretty easy actually later on when you're ready to reassemble to drop the string through the hole, pull it back through the F-hole and tie it on before pulling the pots back through. So just in other words, wait to use the string until you're ready to reassemble. Much easier. And that avoids having all these strings all over the place while you're messing around with your electronics. Alright, so the next step is to push the pots and the switch and the jack right down inside the body, and then what we're going to do is pull it out through the F-hole. And before we do this, I'm going to use a little tape here. This is blue painter's tape, which is a good tape for this kind of thing because it's not too sticky and tacky. It's good for relatively easy release later on, as long as you don't leave it on there for too long. It'll come right off without damaging the finish. And what I want to do here is just protect the edges of the F-hole, because as we're pulling the pots in and out of this thing, there's a lot of sharp edges, and you know, we want to avoid as much as possible scratching up the finish. So the next thing to do is take your favorite hook implement, like this, and reach down in there and see what you can grab. Now, what I'm planning on doing, after I take these things out, is feed them into a piece of cardboard just to hold them in place. You can see why I put that blue tape there now, because it's very easy to bump these things all over the place. Now get your cloth where it's useful, so you can just drop things on it without worrying about the finish of the guitar. Here's the tone pot with the cap right there. Here comes the jack. What else do we got in here? This is the neck volume. And there should be a switch in there somewhere. There it is. So, if it's not obvious already, taking this stuff out is a little easier than putting it back in. But I'm going to be doing another video on how to reassemble this whole thing. But before we jump to that, let's talk about what to do with these things. Take a piece of cardboard like this and punch some holes in it, or you could use a 3/8 inch drill bit, which is what I did, just really roughly drill them through roughly in the same position that they are on the guitar, like this. And then you want to take the electronics and stick them back where they belong. At this point, you might have kind of got lost and not really know which pot is which. Like, is this the neck, the middle, or the bridge? The way you can figure that out is simply, you know, plug in your guitar. It all still works. You can plug your guitar in here, take something metal, like a screwdriver, and very gently touch the pull pieces of the pickups. That's the neck, and that's this knob right here. So you can take your piece of cardboard here, and the neck volume I've got written down there in pencil is right there. Just shove it on through. Just put the washer and nut on there and give it a couple turns to hold it in place so it doesn't just all fall apart. So right now both the bridge and the middle are on, so let's turn down that one. Alright, so what's left is this guy. So that's the middle. Alright, so middle is right there. Jack. Well, alright, now all the electronics are out of the guitar and mounted on this piece of cardboard. Your next step should be to make a careful diagram of how it's all currently wired together. Pay special attention to the colors of the wires and what's connected to each lug of each pot and the jack and the switch. You know, nothing fancy, just pencil on paper. And this will let you get back to where you started in case you blow it. And you will make mistakes, that's just part of the process. What I'm planning on trying next is experimenting with some different potentiometers, trying out some different tone capacitors. I've got some different types of caps and some different capacitances to try. Putting in a new jack, one with a longer bushing, so it won't fall into the guitar so much. And experimenting with treble bleed on the volume pots. And ultimately I'm planning on replacing the pickups themselves. So for each of these little projects I'll be doing before and after audio and video, how-to video. I'll be blogging about it on my website, which is www.planetzee.com. It'll be great if you come along for the ride. I'd look forward to hearing any comments or feedback, suggestions. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and maybe that'll give you a little extra confidence boost in trying this yourself. One thing to keep in mind is that the goal here is to make a guitar that's fun to play and sounds great. Got to take some time out from all this tinkering to actually play the thing. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video, and Thanks for watching.